Seahawks fans, wherever you may be. Thanks for listening to the show. Join your hosts, Bill Alvstad and Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, hi, Seahawk fans. Welcome back to another episode of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down, as always, with Mr. Keith Myers, here to talk Seahawks football. Had an amazing game on Sunday. Keith was at Lumen Field. He can talk about that firsthand experience of what that was like to just completely annihilate another football team. It's been a minute since that has happened at Lumen Field and in general with this team. Couple of really nice blowout wins in a row. Looking forward to this conversation a lot. So how you doing, Keith?
Doing good. It was a fun game to go to. Took the kids, took the whole family, and went to up to Lumen Field from here, and it was a fun game. To the first quarter was just freaking crazy. It was like anything that could go right did, and there's just no, at that point the game felt over, and then it never really changed from that point. I mean, at one point, the Saints did score a touchdown. And one of my kids was like, oh, they finally scored some points and whatever. I was like, Caleb, they're still down by 5 scores. They still have to score 5 times to get even with Seattle. You don't need to worry about it. Yeah, it was that kind of game. That first quarter, seriously, I just you get a fourth down stop, so you get a short field, score a touchdown, get a 3 and out, take the punt and run it back for a touchdown, get another 3 and out, block the punt and recover it at the 10-yard line and bring that as a touchdown. First quarter ended. Seattle only had 3 minutes of time of possession in the first quarter. The Saints had 12 minutes, and it was a 21-0 blowout with Seattle and Lee. I mean, it was the idea that the Saints, with their lack of talent, especially Spencer Rattler at quarterback, were ever going to come back and win this was just completely out of the question from the start. And it made for a fun game. It was low stress. Could just hang out with the kids, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, super fun. It was crazy because statistically, if you looked at just the statistics, we were behind on every category pretty much. At least in the first half, things kind of equalized after that. And then the score was just crazy. And different ways of scoring, special teams, defense, playing really well. The offense, Sam Darnold, I thought, just had probably his best game as a Seahawk so far in a very young season, but super efficient. I mean, just really efficient with the ball, a lot of explosive plays. Mm-hmm. After this game, after this weekend of lineups across the NFL, Seattle currently ranks number 1 in the NFL in DVOA. Overall, they rank 6th on offense. They rank 5th on defense and 1st in special teams. They rank 2nd in point differential, 5th in points per game, and 2nd in points allowed.
Yeah,
doesn't get much better than that.
A massive blowout will help a lot of that, especially when you're only 3 games in and 2 straight double-digit wins. We'll go a long way towards that. One of the things you were talking about, that Sam Darnold being efficient. So Darnold and Spencer Rattler both threw for 218 yards. Rattler had 39 pass attempts. Darnold had 18. Less than half the pass attempts to get the same number of yards. Yeah. So
yeah, that's pretty interesting. and really, I'm super impressed. You know, I knew Darnold was going to be kind of about what he was with Minnesota last year, but he's even better so far. Just all around, statistically for him in a bunch of different categories, he's on track to be better, more efficient, higher rated quarterback, longer yards per attempt. Believe it or not, I mean, he had Jefferson there in Minnesota, and he was, I think, ranked 5th in the NFL by the end of the season on most categories, and he's even ahead of schedule with all of those. I just think it's a perfect fit for Kubiak's scheme. The only thing that really I can say so far, other than kind of losing that 49er game, and just really kind of coming out and being just flat on offense. So far, since then, we've really done everything that we wanted to do, with the exception of running the ball really effectively. They have the attempts, but their yards per attempt is like 3.3, 29th in the poor NFL. And against poor teams. I mean, you know, I think at the end of the season, when we look at New Orleans, when we look at Pittsburgh's defense, maybe they're not so good. And I think that was reflected in the way that we were able to move the ball in general, but we've struggled a little bit running the ball. And I think if you take a look at the advanced stats on the actual offensive line and the run blocking success rates and so forth, they're kind of poor, especially with Bradford and surprisingly Lucas on the right side. Not so good. And then you've got, you know, essentially a rookie center, offensive center and left guard, and you're going to have some mistakes there. And we have had some. Now,
one of the things that I noticed,
though, that they're doing much better, I thought, than we even probably anticipated.
One of the things I noticed at the game was, and I think it had to do with, you know, the fact that it's a, you know, Kubiak run offense, and the fact the Seahawks had a big lead, but the Saints were committing a lot of guys into the box. They had 8 or 9 in the box, like every play. They just were like, we have to stop the run. We can't let the Seahawks grind the ball, grind the clock out. And they were bringing people forward, and Seattle was running right into that, 8 and 9 man boxes for very little effectiveness, but it set up play action. And it's the reason why Darnold had all those yards on just 14, completions. Was there was a lot of things open down the field because there were no safeties back, and it just it made things easy on Darnold, but it made it really hard going for Kenneth Walker. I don't know if this game had been closer. I don't know if we would have seen that same issue, because I don't think they would have sold out to stop the run in the same way. And so it's hard for me to look at what I was watching in that game and really identify and be like, ooh, the running game is broken or that kind of stuff. There were always extra guys that weren't blocked because there just weren't enough blockers compared to the number of guys in the box. So makes for some really hard running. We'll see. A week ago, they ran into a lot of the same problem against the Steelers, where they just were set to stop the run, and they were bringing extra guys up into the box. So we'll see. At some point, teams are going to have to back off because Darnold's just killing them.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll balance out over time, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But Sam Darnold at halftime against the Saints, 10 of 11, 169 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, a 158.3 perfect passer rating. Come on, can't get better than that. That's just super efficient. It's not like he's really throwing the ball downfield. He doesn't have to. They're playing within themselves. The offense is kind of rolling. They're running the ball effectively enough to to allow them to kind of have that passing game going, and the play action stuff is working. So you just got to kind of stick with it, and hopefully those stack boxes, as you say, become less and less just because Sam Darnold's making them pay. And that's what you have to do.
I mean, the running game has to set up play action, and it would be nice if those running plays were more effective. Walker averaging 2.4 yards per carry is not going to get it done in most games, but it kept the Saints bringing people up into the box, and it made some linebackers bite on play action and let guys like JSN get deep. So
I will say that there were 30 plus yards called back that Ken Walker had.
That's true.
For penalties, and so if you add those in, those calls don't happen for whatever reason, it looks a little better. I mean, he's got over 70 yards, and essentially 19 carries, 70 yards, 3.8 average instead of 2.4. It's a little better. And I think it was effective. Even I think those penalties kind of skewed that just a little bit. So, but at the same time, Sam Darnold's only been sacked 3 times in 3 games, second lowest mark in the NFL. The offensive line only allowed 3 pressures against the Saints. So really, they were successful in kind of taking the run away. Good for them. But they didn't take the pass away. They didn't make it hard. And so combined with all the other stuff, we just kind of steamrolled them, and so and our defense is just playing tremendous, so you combine kind of, I think an offense that takes advantage of certain situations and kind of makes some plays when they need to make some plays. And then a defense that's just really playing terrific so far, especially guys that are filling in. It's just so refreshing to see the depth that we've got, especially in the defensive back part of this defense, Kendrick.
Yeah. And they've had to. They've had to have guys step up because Love's hurt, Witherspoon's hurt, Emanwari's hurt. That's 3 of your top 5 defensive backs all not available in this game. Josh Jobe had himself a game. He had a couple of penalties in one drive and was kind of picked on a little bit on one drive, but the rest of the day he had a phenomenal game and just managed to find ways to continue to make plays. And then Kendrick, who wasn't even on this team in training camp in the preseason, got another pick, just continues to step up and play well.
He's a kid that was waived by the Los Angeles Rams after preseason, claimed by Seattle. And the past 2 weeks, he's had 68 coverage snaps, 8 targets, 4 catches allowed, 22 total yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 16.7 passer rating allowed.
That's
with an 11 negative 11.4 EPA. The only I would say there's 5 cornerbacks in the NFL that have a slightly better EPA than he has. Josh Jobe is one of them. He has a negative 11.7 EPA. Jobe's EPA ranks 5th in the NFL. Kendrick's is 6th among all NFL cornerbacks.
Which is crazy. Because these are guys that, honestly, they're the 6th and 7th defensive backs on this roster. And then you look at,
Not anymore.
Reek Woolen had a rough, had a rough week 1, but he's played really well these last 2 weeks. The Seahawks needed him to step up with Spoon out, and he stepped up and been the guy and done really well. I still think those guys are still the 6th and 7th defensive backs on the roster. I know you said not anymore, but are you going to put either of them on the field before Spoon or, Emanwari, Love? Like they're still going to be fighting
It's a
for
good
playing
problem
time
to have. I think
when
you're
all
going to
those
see a
guys get
trade.
back.
I think you're going to end up seeing a trade before the trade deadline. You're just going to have too many guys that deserve to play, that can play, that should be playing on a seriously number one ranked defense in the NFL. And
I don't know.
What are you going to do? I mean, you're going to go back to sitting Kendrick, who's the 6th ranked cornerback in the NFL. Now, granted, we don't know the full scope of teams that we're facing yet, and how they'll settle into their offensive ranks as far as what we're facing. But if this continues,
the Saints are going to be near the bottom. The Saints are going to be near the bottom. That was a bad offensive team.
Maybe, but I think they'll be more middling than the bottom.
I think they're going to be near the bottom.
Their defense is not good.
Their offense is not good. Spencer Rattler is terrible. And their offensive line is not good. And as much as I like, Kamara, you're asking him to carry an entire football team, and that's not something he's going to be able to do.
18 carries, 42 yards, 2.3 average.
Yeah. His day was worse than Ken Walker's as far as like yards per rush.
And the Seahawks defense was doing it out of base defense most of the time against the run.
Yeah.
They were not
actually they weren't stacked. Actually, one of the things that I noticed what they were doing in this game a lot was they were pulling a defensive tackle. They were running with just 2 defensive linemen. They were playing a 2-4-5 nickel for a lot of this game. And I mean,
with it.
Yeah, they chose to have an extra defensive back in there instead of having an extra defensive tackle, and it didn't matter. They were still able to come up with 4 linebackers in there, come up and make plays, and keep Kamara from hurting them. That is such a good football team. Like the defense, Seattle's defense is legit. And they were playing against a team that just really, it was the Chris Olave show, and that was essentially the only thing they had going for them.
Yeah, no, it was super fun to watch. I mean, and without Julian Love, you mentioned that he's still not. He was out in this game. Teokota came in, played well, 9 total tackles, split a sack with Leonard Williams. I think he was in there on the block, wasn't he? I think, or was that Bell?
It was Bell who got the block.
Yeah, Bell had the block. Yeah, just amazing.
Honestly, he came through on that, and you could see that it was going to get blocked. He was only 2 steps past off the line of scrimmage, and you're like, this is getting blocked. Because there was no one in front of him. He just completely beaten the outside and just had that line there. Absolutely just a phenomenal effort there. And he got a bunch of playing time as a safety too. Like when I said they went to a 5 defensive backs, the first play of the game had 3 safeties. They went with 2 at the 2-4-5 nickel. So you had Bell, Akota, and Kobe Bryant as your 3 safeties. Like they started the game that way.
That's crazy. I mean, you talk about Kendrick, you talk about Josh Jobe, you talk about Teokota, and now Bell. And these guys are coming in and playing snaps. I mean, not just fill in, fourth quarter in this game. These guys were in there from the beginning and played instrumental roles in this defensive effort. You got to feel good about the depth on this team and what that means for the long-term future of this franchise.
Yeah. I'm again, I gotta make sure that I don't overreact to this because it is against the Saints and that offensive roster is bad. But the way that the defense has been playing without three legit guys, 2 stars, 2 Pro Bowlers, and then a rookie that everyone's excited about and, is supposed to be a fixture on this defense. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell those guys are out. And those are really good football players that are sitting on the sidelines. So,
yeah. Fun stuff. So, Byron Murphy is a guy I kind of wanted to focus on a little bit.
Absolutely.
It's hard for, layman fans to understand what was going on with him last year. He was kind of hyped up to be a guy that's, the best defensive player in the draft. We ended up getting him at 16, comes in statistically, he looks average, mediocre, just kind of holding his own, didn't really get as many snaps as we thought he might get during the season. Although, you look a little deeper, which most of us do, and he's doing all the dirty work. He's allowing other players to come in and be successful and just kind of taking on double teams, all that stuff that generally doesn't show up in the stat sheet. This year, though, he's doing all that stuff that he did last year, taking on double teams, all that kind of stuff, but he's adding to his game, right?
Oh, man,
currently in the NFL, Keith, he's leading the NFL in the following defensive tackle categories. He's first in sacks with 3, first in pressures with 12, first in hurries with 8, first in run stops with 9, first in solo tackles with 9. He's having an all-pro season so far. 3 games in. I get it, 3 games, right? But
he's balling out. Like when he's in there, you can tell he makes an impact. And he's fighting through double teams a lot. Like they're putting a guard and a center onto him, and it isn't mattering. He's just fighting through that double team, getting into the backfield and making plays. He's been dominating. He also did all of that in terms of this game while playing more defensive snaps than any other defensive lineman on this team. Like they rotated Leonard Williams and Reed and Morris and everyone, and they pretty much left Byron Murphy in there. So he was tired, I'm sure, at some point, because when you're playing, what was it, 72% of the snaps, you're like, that's a lot for a defensive lineman.
That's a big change for him, considering where Mike Macdonald was with him, as far as what he would say about him outwardly to the media. Like, we need him to work be available every play. He needs to do more. He needs to be more consistent. His work ethic, he needs to work on that, blah, blah, blah. This year, it's completely different, right? He's playing all the time. He's, playing multiple positions across the defensive line. The Seahawks are allowing 15.7 points per game, second in the NFL right now. Running backs are only getting 3.2 yards per carry. That's third in the NFL. So they're defending the run very well. He's a big part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know people were disappointed with what he did last year, but honestly, go look at, the last 10 years and guys even drafted in the first round at defensive tackle. They don't make an impact, like a massive impact, until year 2. The NFL game is just different. And
he was strong as an ox last year. I mean, his legs are just tree trunks, right?
Oh yeah,
but there's just
absolutely.
something about the game strength and speed, even on the interior, that you got to get used to.
Yeah. And I mean, I think people are overly harsh on his game last year. I think he was far better than people gave him credit for, but he's added a layer of dominance to his game where he's more than just eating blocks. He's beating double teams to get into the backfield and clobber running backs or get to the quarterback. He is having a phenomenal breakout year. And honestly, you called him an all-pro. If he could keeps this up for 16 or 17 games, he will be an all-pro. We'll see if he's capable of doing that. That's a lot to ask for any player at all, to keep up that level of dominance for that long. But
the reason I think that he has an opportunity is because this is a team defense, and he's got the opportunity because he's got really good players around him that are unselfish and willing to do whatever it takes to be a good defense. And if that means he's the hot hand and they're opening up opportunities for him because they work together to try to create those opportunities, he's going to be the beneficiary because Leonard Williams in there and he's unselfish. He's not a stat guy. He doesn't care. He just wants to win. Leonard Williams is going to get his. It's just the way it is with him. But he's also in there taking some guys away from him a little bit and giving him some one-on-one opportunities.
Who are you going to double team? You're going to double team Leonard Williams. You're going to double team Byron Murphy. You can't double team them both and still be able to block, Hall and Mafe coming off the edges, right? There's just not enough. There's not enough blockers to block all the guys that the Seahawks have. And so with Murphy playing at the level that he's playing at, like, it makes the opposing coordinators have to pick one. And when they, so far they've been kind of splitting time between one or the other, and whichever one is not getting double teamed is getting to the quarterback. And when you can get to the quarterback straight up the middle, the way those two guys are, it makes life really hard for opposing offenses.
So I wanted to kind of save this part of the team for the last part of our discussion. That would be special teams. So the first game, I was worried. I was like, what is Harbaugh doing, man? Is this going to be another year where we struggle on special teams, both in coverage and kick returning and just all of that? And this is a number 1 ranked DVOA special teams unit in the entire NFL. And this game went towards that in a big way. Tell me what you saw in special teams.
What I saw in special teams was Horton looks fantastic on punt returns. And I'm not just saying that because he had that that touchdown, and the touchdown was fun. Like, that was just great. But just there was another one where he took it and ran from kind of near the right sideline and took it around to the left. And he got past the last guy. He got enough blocking to get him over there. And if he could have stopped his momentum enough to turn up the field, he would have been gone. But he was just running too fast and couldn't get turned around the corner and ended up only getting like a 16-yard punt return. He looks fast. He looks like he knows what he's doing. And the guys coming down the field have a plan. Like, they set up the blocks. They're still running towards Horton, running back, away from the line of scrimmage, but they're prepping themselves. They're figuring out where they need to be to set up the blocks. So that way Horton can see what to do and where to go, and trust that that he's going to have an opening if he gets there. That's what I saw, because there were like 3 different punt returns where, there was the touchdown, and then, 2 other ones where it was set up for him. Like, they could have taken and done even more. It looks really good.
I know you kind of blew through that touchdown one, but I want to stick with that for half a second, because that dude was untouched, and it was like beautifully blocked from the beginning, and they avoided penalties in doing so, because they could have been kind of blocking the back a couple of different times, but they just held back and held their hands up and, just they didn't have any penalties. And they had a terrific block by Surratt against the punter himself right there to completely make sure that he was clean all the way through. And after that, they had no chance. And that was about at the 40, and he had 60 yards to go after that. That was a flash. I mean, he just kind of blew through there, and that was pretty exciting to see. And it looks repeatable. Like you said, he almost got around the edge from the TV angle, Keith. You couldn't tell that he had a big lane against the sideline there. It kind of showed him running himself out of bounds. But you really couldn't see that there was going to be a real good angle there for him to completely take off.
From where I was, the last guy that he got around the corner, and there was a little, the block was just a hair late there. And as far as getting him around that corner, there was nothing beyond that. Once, if he had been able to stay in bounds and get upfield, there was nothing in front of him except for just green. He could have had a second one. And yeah, like I said, the block was just a little bit late, but it was the same time. It was a block that the guy was trying really hard to make sure that he didn't get called for, those crackback blocks where you're running, away from, back towards the line or back towards your own end zone and you hit a guy from behind. And so they're trying really hard to like get in front of a guy with their back to the guy with their arms like up. I'm not hitting you. I'm just, getting in the way a little bit.
I'm running interference, right?
Yeah. And so they're being really careful about that kind of stuff because they don't want the penalty, which is awesome. I'd rather have them not have the penalty. And yeah, he was so close to having like that one. There was nobody over there. And so, yeah, it was, the whole thing was just fun, just with those returns and stuff. But then I look at like the kick coverage, and the Saints had no idea what they were doing. Like, I don't mean like say that as like, oh, well, they're incompetent. I mean, like, they did not have a plan that would work for what Seattle was doing. Seattle was, forcing them to return it. They weren't giving away the touchback and pulling the ball out to the 30. They were forcing them to return it, and then they were just collapsing their lanes in just the right way that you never thought there was a chance for them to break one. If anything, you were like, how many people is he going to have to get around just to get back to the 30, where the touchback would have gone? And so, that just looked good. And the same with I think they had one punt return that was reasonable, but that was only because somebody missed a tackle. Like somebody had him dead to rights and just missed. If guys actually, if you actually complete that tackle, it's a 2-yard punt return, and they're taking over. Instead, it ends up being 14. Whatever. There's just nothing in there that I look at when I was watching just any of the phases of special teams, and I'm thinking that this is going to be a problem. And honestly, like, Jason Myers right now just looks automatic to come out in a game where they're up by, they have 5 touchdowns to 3 points, and they decide to kick a 57-yard field goal. I'm like, really? But he just nailed it right down the middle. And at least from where I'm sitting, it just looked automatic, and it was like there was no doubt whatsoever. And just everything about special teams in this game looked great, and that punt block was fun. So, Bell just screaming off the edge. That was just like, you don't see that very often.
I mean, you nailed all the special teams highlights. I mean, that's really it, right? It's just all coming together, and you combine that with last week's performance and the block that they had there, and the touchdown in the end zone with Helani. I mean, it's just kind of it's a fun aspect of this team.
I will say there was another kickoff that hit the guy in the hands and went over his head and into the end zone, and he went back and got it and put his knee down, and because it's a live ball at that point. And there was the guy sitting behind me was like, "No, you don't need to do that. Just walk off the field like they did last week." I don't know why. There's just something about it. It was like super funny, and I loved it. But it's like the entire NFL kind of put on notice, hey, you have to actually take care of this, because it was the first touchdown by the kicking team on a kickoff since 1981. So crazy.
So you were in the stadium, Keith, and you could hear it on the TV, and people were talking about it and talked about it afterwards too as being a factor. But the crowd noise was definitely back.
Oh yeah,
in that field yesterday.
Well, it was in the first half. In the first half, it was. We were hitting 109, 110 decibels.
They had like 4 motion penalties, like in the first 2 quarters, didn't they?
Yeah. They had 3 in the first quarter. Actually, it's like 3 in the first 7 minutes for like a false start. And they put up a graphic on the thing that was like, today so far 3, and then it's like NFL record 11. And you could kind of feel like the stadium just kept getting louder. And then the game just got out of hand. And then everyone was like, okay, like you're up 35-3. Do we have to scream? And so the decibels dropped from 110 to like 102, and you could tell. But I mean, it was just a blowout. So there was a lot of fun.
So a couple of things. How do you feel about the DVOA rankings that I kind of mentioned at the top of the show, where overall we're number 1? And
I like that. Gotta like that. But playing the Saints is going to help that, because the Saints are not a good football team. Playing Pittsburgh might help that. Although Pittsburgh came back and won, they're 2-1, and so they went and beat New England this last week. So maybe they're not like terrible. I think they're they're probably a team that's going to finish.
They're as good as Aaron Rodgers is.
Yeah, they're probably a team that's going to finish with 9 or 10 wins, and they don't finish under 500. I don't think Tomlin has ever finished under 500. It's been happened one year in his entire career. But they'll finish just barely above 500. They're not a great football team, but yeah, I mean, I think the competition, and then the 49ers, the 49ers are 3-0. Is there a less intimidating 3-0 like in the league right now, especially with
it really
Bosa
depends on how Arizona is viewed. Yeah, right. It does. For me, it depends on A, where we end up, B, where does Arizona end up? Like, how important was that game? Is that going to come back to bite Arizona in the end? Is that going to really elevate the 49ers into some sort of playoff thing? How long is Purdy going to be out? You mentioned Bosa now gone with the ACL. That's unfortunate for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they seem like they're buying wins right now that maybe they shouldn't get, and we'll see. I mean, a good resilient team does that. I'll hand it to them, man. You win games, especially when stuff happens, and that's what good teams do. So we'll see. It's but Bosa being out, that's huge.
Yeah, he was a big portion of. Oh, he was essentially, you could say, he was why they won in Week 1 over Seattle. Because if it isn't Bosa, if it's his backup in there, then Abe Lucas isn't pushed back into Sam Darnold for that fumble, and Seattle takes the lead at the end of the game and wins that. That Bosa was the difference in that game, and they're going to be without him for the rest of the year. He's done.
Okay, so we're going to come back and review this or preview this Arizona game. I think we have time to do that. This game is a Thursday night game this week. And I'm going to be going to it. It's going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. You got to go to this last game. I'm going to go to this game. So it's super fun. Connor's out. I do know that he's had that really bad ankle injury against the 49ers, and he had season-ending surgery. He is out for the year for them. They're running back.
That's too bad. I
really like him.
I like him. I like his story. Completely written off. He had like leukemia or something in college, and came back and has been really good in the pros. His is a fun story. I like him. It's too bad to see him get hurt, but I mean, it's even more the, it's going to be on their quarterback. It's going to be on bobblehead. Can he carry them? I still don't I
I
still
am a
don't
little
love.
worried. Yeah, I don't like Kyler Murray either. And I told you this in a text. I'm a little worried about Jacardia Wright getting picked off of the practice squad by the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Because A, for this game, but B, they need a running back, a physical, like strong running back that can really kind of take a little bit of the load, and he would be a guy. That's
He's
something to
looked good
watch.
with Seattle. He looked, he got a few carries in this one and looked solid. In there in the fourth quarter when it was all backups everywhere. But yeah, I mean, he looks like a guy that can play at this level, and I think that Arizona just got a guy that they can rely on a little bit. I don't think he's good as like Connor, and
Well, he's not there. He's not gone yet. They haven't come and taken him yet, but I'm worried that they will.
Oh, I thought they did.
No, I didn't want you.
Okay.
I didn't give you. I was thinking I didn't give you that impression, but maybe I did.
No, I actually thought I saw that.
Oh, okay. I have not seen that.
And maybe that's maybe it's not, and I'm just making this up because it's highly possible. But then again, that you're right. I guess maybe it was one of those things where it was just kind of people were talking about it because those things wouldn't go into effect until after Sunday night or after Monday Night Football.
Right. Yeah, it'd have to be on Tuesday that would happen. It's a very short week, so we'll see. I want to finish with this. I want to ask you a couple of things, but they all kind of tie together. So in the offseason, we acquired Darnold to essentially with the upside, with the optimist side, thinking that he would be what we are currently seeing. And then along with Kubiak as the offensive coordinator. And then Mike Macdonald's second year with the defense, but also just as a head coach of the entire team, including the offense. Give me your thoughts about those moves and what it's really turning into right now for Seattle.
Well, I mean, it's worked out as we kind of expected, right? In that, I think people were very, at least nationally, were very tentative with Darnold and saying that he was going to be good in Seattle. I think he's starting to show that he's carrying this team, and that's something that we can expect from him. Kubiak has really played into his strengths. He's doing a good job calling games and helping Darnold out. It'd be nice if the running game was a little better, so that way they could lean on it a little bit more, because it just would make Darnold even more efficient. But without even the running game being like, great, he's still getting a lot out of Darnold. And so just having a competent offensive coordinator has been nice. I like what we're seeing from Macdonald. I mean, this is a disciplined football team that doesn't get a lot of penalties.
That's a good word.
They play smart. They're well coached, and the defense, even with all the injuries and stuff that they're dealing with right now, looks legit good. And yeah, I know playing the Saints will make you look good, but there's
a certain baseline of competency there, though, regardless of the opponent that you're seeing.
Absolutely. And we've seen that for 3 weeks. Like, this isn't a 1 week thing. 3 straight games, the defense has been what we expected them to be. They've been good. And you gotta love what you're seeing right now. Now, I think that things get a little more interesting starting this week, because you're playing the Arizona. You're doing them on a short rest. Thursday night game. You got to get, you got to travel in there too, get down into the desert. But do the Cardinals scare you? They don't scare me. I gotta look at this. I'm like, Seattle's defense is gonna do their thing. They just got to get a little bit out of the offense to get a win, and that's going to be the that's going to be what's going to be true in almost every game this year. The defense is going to get theirs. You get enough out of the offense, you get the win. And Darnold is giving you what you need.
That could be what it comes down to. Now, I'm going off the top of my head here because I don't have any notes prepared for the Arizona thing, but I believe when I was doing my research for the Seattle stuff on DVOA, I believe that the Cardinals were ranked 13th overall and 13th on defense, which tells me they're, right in the middle of the pack. Now they face some teams, right? But, the Saints as well as the 49ers, two common opponents. And I don't know who their third opponent was. Can't remember right off the top of my head. But, I think we've got an opportunity on offense to kind of run the ball a little bit against their defense. Their defense wants to be stout. They probably will stack the box a little bit. We'll kind of see how that goes. And I think Darnold can beat their defensive backs. I think they went into the training camp as a position of strength with their corners and left training camp as a weakness, and they still have a weakness there, I think. So it'll be really interesting. And then on defense, I think our defense is going to have their way with most offenses in the NFL. And the Cardinals, again, you mentioned it. Kyler Murray, you're putting the whole thing on Kyler Murray's back, getting the ball out to, the weapons that he's got. And he does have weapons. But now they're down Connor. I think that makes them semi one-dimensional, at least right now on paper. And that's doing no favors to Kyler Murray, because when they get one-dimensional, people can tee up on him, contain him in a pocket that he cannot see over, and force him to try to throw the ball into the middle of the field, which he is not good at. And we've had success doing that in the past. Mike Macdonald had success last year, and I think that carries over, and we'll see. But
so before we get out of here, we had some interesting games around the NFL besides Seattle's. I looked like the Rams had their game in hand, but they give up the touchdown to tie it, and then they get down into field goal range and set up for what should be a game winner, right? Over the Eagles, over the defending champs. And instead, the kick is blocked and return for a touchdown for an Eagles win. It's just, there has been a lot of stuff like this week. It's been it was a fun week in the NFL, all around.
Yeah. Now I was watching, the Red Zone yesterday, and when we were kind of texting and before the game, and so I saw some of those endings, and that Eagles Rams game was definitely one of them, and they had their chance and got that thing blocked. I thought the Browns over the Packers was another game I was watching. I was like, I just totally cheered out loud, scared the crap out of one of my dogs. Felt bad, poured myself another beer. It was a good day for the Seahawks all around. And then we have a chance to go into the desert really, and on Thursday night, and at least get half a game before Sunday's games lead in the NFC West. And we'll see how it shakes out for the 49ers going forward, and the Rams. This division is going to be something, I think. And so it'll be very interesting to see how it all goes.
Yeah, it's been fun. 49ers in the first place, 3-0. And I'm not sure they're scaring anybody at the moment. Not with Bosa out. Not with an offense that scored, what was it, 16 points? It was 15 points. That was not a pretty game, the 49er game. I tried to watch that on replay and watch it, even in where it's only takes say about 45 minutes because they did all the gap between plays comes out. It was hard to watch. That was just an ugly football game.
It was ugly, and Marvin Harrison had like 3 drops. That game would have been different, I think, if he would have had those catches, because they were for big plays potentially, and just 3 drops, and that worries me a little bit. I mean, his get off at the line of scrimmage is something. So I'm hoping for Witherspoon to be at least back in this lineup,
hopefully
in this game. Yeah. Okay, so let's get out of here, and we'll come back and preview that Cardinals game for you before Thursday. You can find Keith on Blue Sky at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. The show is Seahawks Playbook Podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe and like button, and we will go into the desert and hopefully get out of there 3-1. And that would be a great start to this season. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook Podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.